This is the first incarnation of the flower child from Cambridge Brewing, and do you know, welcome to the vlog, everybody. I love this beer. I'm going to have a little slurp and let you take a look at today's 2 new pressurized fermenters that have arrived. And if Mr. Will Myers ever watches this, sir, I salute you. That is just, what can you say? And it's definitely going to be a brew that I'm going to be doing on a very, very regular basis. That's now my kind of like go-to. There were 3 brews that I had in my mind that I'd quite like to get right. This Flower Child, something from Vocation in Hebden Bridge in the UK called Life and Death. There's a story behind that. I'm not going to go into that too much at the moment. And the other one was the kind of heady topper, and the heady topper I had a bit of help with, as I did with the Flower Child, but I'm not allowed to mention who by, but thank you. Now, today's 2 new additions. These are pressure fermenters. These are the Fermzilla all-rounders, and the point is you put a dip tube with a floaty ball, which are over there somewhere. They're there, and then you can put a sponding valve on here to control the pressure, so you can do pressure fermentation. I've got 2 so that I can do a brew, and then I can rack it off the tube, depending on who's listening, tube. Sorry, Chris. I can rack it straight off into here to dry hop it. But here's the thing. What I will have done is pop the hops in here first, and then completely purge this with CO2. There will be no oxygen in here, so I'll go from the dip tube here out into the dip tube here and gently fill this up, so that will take everything off the yeast cake at the bottom. I don't do harvesting yeast, so that's why I don't use the other one over there, wherever it is, with the dump valve and the jar. I don't harvest yeast, I slant it, so all of my yeast is built up to starters from slants. So yeah, off the yeast cake into here, fully purged. That dry hops it. That's the first dry hop. While that's dry hopping, I can clean this out. If I do a second dry hop, I can do the same. I can just off here into there with a second lot of dry hops, purged with CO2, completely oxygen free, and then out of here into keg, completely, which will have been purged obviously with CO2, completely oxygen free. So that's today's 2 little additions. We'll see how it goes. These are only 30 litre. These are only going to be for like pilot brews that I'm going to be mucking about with. They do a 60 litre version of this. And the beauty of that is you just need to replace this bit, because the pressure top and the sponding valve and everything else poos is the same. So you just replace this, but I won't, obviously, will I? I'll go for the whole 60 litre unit from Johnny at Brew Keg Tap, because that's what I do. And yes, so yes, these are both from Brew Keg Tap, as is most of my stuff. All the kegs, all the taps, all the everything pretty much is from Johnny, apart from the Fermzilla with the dump valve, which was a present. I can't talk about that because I hate it. Well, I don't hate it, I actually love it, but it's a pain in the arse cleaning it. Yes. What else? Oh dear, excuse me. I've got a bit of a cold coming. I don't know why. And that's a worry, because a cold is basically a coronavirus. Yes, it is. People don't realise that. If you watched the earlier vlog, you'll know that I had real worries about my copper or kettle or boiler or whatever you want to call it. It seems to be sealed fine. I've run a couple of sort of like test boils through it, and it seems okay. And this is fine. This is perfect for anything up to about 40 litres, but I just generally tend to do pilot brews in it, 25 litre pilot brews in it. I have today been speaking to, I don't know if you remember, and the door's locked so I'm not going to go. I've got my mum's old copper hot water cylinder that was replaced when she had her central heating replaced. I've got that here. It's massive. It's like, massive. And I am tempted to find a local fabricator who can take that and turn it either into a copper or a boiler with some clamps and a funnel, you know what I mean, to make a big boiler, or flatten it out to make a cool ship. If you don't know what a cool ship is, Koelschip, I think. Yeah, it's Dutch anyway. It means cool ship. Oddly enough. And then get into some natural kind of like spontaneous fermentation stuff, natural fermentation stuff. It's like one of these plastic things. It's like a big tray. Anyone who's been to Hook Norton Brewery, up in their top bit, they've got a big one, copper, which they used to use to cool the wort before putting it into the fermenters and chucking the yeast in. But the original idea was you'd have a large kind of copper bath, shallow copper bath, which would cool your wort. My idea is to knock some wort up. Basic, just kind of like what? Put it into just a bucket with a lid and take it out into the middle of nowhere with a cool ship, copper cool ship, and leave it overnight. Then pop it back in a fermenter, let it ferment, see what comes out. That's how you kind of like your lambics, and some of that saison, but your lambics and your sours and your naturally fermented stuff. And again, the idea for doing that comes back to, it's here, that remarkable chap, Mr. Will Mayers, from CBC, Cambridge Brewing. And this is the one that we tried recently. I've also got another one of these, which he sent over, which is just a bonking brew. So the idea is not to replicate these, but to do the kind of natural fermentation, spontaneous fermentation, leave it overnight so the moths and the flies and the natural yeasts get in there, and then let it ferment. And as it ferments all of the baddie bits out and the goody bits that are left. That's the idea. Crikey, banging on a little bit, sorry about that. So that's that for now. I have been sort of trying to have a bit of a tidy up in here. You wouldn't really know it, would you? But one of the things that is going to be happening, I can give you a little, do you know what, in a minute. Just look at these pressurised fermenters for a second. Oh, Will, mate, that is fantastic. In fact, I prefer that to the heady topper. Actually, I shouldn't say that, because somebody else who might watch this will then think that I'm showing preferences. But yeah, Alchemist, CBC, you're both wonderful, really beautiful, love you both, really tremendous, as your president would say. the big news is the truck's going outside. I'm going to put the truck up for sale, and when the truck's gone, the space, the footprint that the truck is sat on, we are going to build a little proper micro brewery. That is going to be, and I'm going to call it, because it'll be small, it'll only be about 15 foot by 10 foot, if that. I'm going to call it the world's smallest brewery, and that's where we're going to be offering the brew day experiences. And then I'm going to try and get some of the patients, when we can, when COVID's sorted, I'm going to get some of the patients out to do a brew day. I'm also going to offer that as a kind of like a paid experience day. So the idea is some people will pay to come and do a brew day, then they can take away, you know, their own beer at the end of it, and then by them paying for that, it also pays forward for me to be able to afford to spend the time getting a patient or a couple of patients out to do exactly the same thing, but without charging them, because most of my patients don't have any money, and it's unlikely that they're going to be in a position of ever earning any. So that's the idea for that, and kind of like these feed into that as well, along with the other fermenters and other stuff that we're doing. So that's a sneak preview of what we are going to be doing when this COVID thing's over, and it will be. And I know it's difficult for everybody at the moment. The thing to hang on to is it will be over. And I think we all, with no exceptions, we all find ourselves panicking a little bit at times. That uncertainty, the anxiety of what's going to happen, the worries about our businesses, the worries about our friends, the worries about whether we're going to see any of our loved ones again. All of those are natural feelings, they're natural expressions of the way that we react to completely unprecedented circumstances. But the thing to hang on to, boys and girls, is this will be over. And when it is, are we going to party? So I'll have several kegs of this ready when we do. So that's where we're at. That's today's little vlog. Stay safe. Try and look on the bright side. At least we haven't been hit by an asteroid.